everyone, and welcome to theCUBE's coverage of Axonius Adapt 25 here in Dallas, Texas. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside my co-host and analyst, Jackie McGuire. We have with us Ryan Knisley. I love the silent K. I mean, we speak to each other. Former CISO at Disney and Costco. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
No one gets the silent K.
Yeah.
They say Knisley, and they'll go, how do you spell it, or how do you say it? And I go, it's a silent K.
It takes one to know one, Ryan.
I've actually had people say, oh, you don't see that much. And I was like, oh, really? Like, every word in the English language that I know of that's K-in. So yeah, I should have changed it legally long ago to Knisley, but
right. I like it. So let's talk about your career, which has spanned some of the most admired brands on the planet, including Disney and Costco. And especially being in the role that you're in, which we want to get into later in the show, but let's just paint a picture for our viewers right now of where we are in the state of cybersecurity today and how you've seen it evolve over time.
Yeah, we're caught in a bit of really in the middle of a transformation in cyber. I think especially with cyber leadership and the role of the CISO. I think years ago when I started my career, it was very technical, mostly only technical tracks. We didn't think about the soft skills that much. We were the departments of no, right? Business disablers, not
business. Impediment to innovation is my favorite one.
If you want innovation to die, send it to InfoSec. And so I always thought, man, if I can ever be a CISO someday, and it wasn't really a goal, I just thought if I'm ever in a leadership role, I want to do it differently. And I've tried to do it differently, almost sometimes to my detriment, which we can talk about. But I think where we're at right now is we're gonna be business leaders eventually. We're getting better.
Are you saying we're not now?
I think we are still treated as tech people, trying to be business leaders, or the expectation is, hey, we're this business leader, but we're going to treat you like a tech person.
Yeah.
And I've seen in my experience and friends that are in the same role where we have all the accountability for cyber, but we don't truly have the responsibility of C-suite leadership sometimes to make these big sort of grand decisions for our organization. We still have to kind of go ask for permission to do things because it's tech.
One of my favorite books is called Likeable Badass, and it draws this distinction between power and status. And power is kind of like the money, the title, whereas status is your ability to actually influence things. And I think what you're saying, which is what I have thought for a while, is that CISOs are very often given power, so they're accountable for things, they're responsible for things, but not necessarily status, and that they have the final say if there's a conflict between C-levels on the board. So you think that's going to change?
You're
hopeful?
I do, I'm hopeful, I guess I'm hopeful. At Disney, right? With great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. Except if you're a CISO. No, I'm just kidding.
I've always thought that security is more of a culture than anything. Like, it is a group of people, it is responsibilities, but for it to actually work at most companies, it just has to be baked into the culture, so that, to your point, that the attitude is not, these are the bad guys, these are the no guys. It should be more like, these are the guys who are going to save my butt.
These are the heroes.
Yeah, these are the guys who come in if I make a mess. So have you had success in trying to shift culture?
I have. I actually heard this. I'm going to steal this from a CISO I talked with yesterday who said, for the longest time, we're like physicians. We diagnose problems, right? We're pointing out problems. And he said, we need to become sports psychologists. We need to change behaviors. And I thought that was so brilliant. I hadn't heard that. And it's truly what we need to do is really evolve behaviors for the companies that we support. I think cyber in general, information security in general, sometimes gets a bad rap. And if I think about like some of the government regulatory stuff that's come down, really focused on CISOs, the frustration we have is these are your biggest champions for cyber at the company, yet you're pointing your regulatory efforts against them, and it's just a weird situation right now, I think. But I am hopeful that we're progressing to the next generation of truly business leaders.
Yeah, from a case law perspective, there really isn't a lot to tell a CISO where you're, because as a CFO, you know, okay, I have fiduciary duty and we've been through enough crises and meltdowns that I know where my legal liability ends, what my D&O covers, what it doesn't. I feel like we haven't really gotten there for CISOs yet, and that there haven't been enough spectacular systemic implosions that there's been enough litigation. So I've been saying the last year, like, I would rather we proactively offer those kind of regulations and those kind of frameworks than wait for that to happen.
Oh, absolutely. Like, they've given us sort of the punishment without kind of the rule book by which to go by, the set of rules of which to follow. So it is interesting. Yeah.
There's 19 different frameworks.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, I want to ask about your individual career, because as you said, when you were coming up, you said, if I get to be in that role someday, I want to do it differently.
Yeah.
And yet you have this real technical background. Were there some defining moments that happened in your career that made you think I want to do it differently? And how did they reshape how you think about security and how it aligns with the business mission?
As far as really defining moments in my life, kind of that shaped who I am and how I'm as a leader, I got to go way back. First of all is the Army. I joined the Army when I was 18. That gives you a perspective, so I was in the Army from 1997 to 2005. That period of time, that gives you real perspective on kind of what's important and what's an emergency and that sort of thing. And just as a leader, it's a phenomenal leadership program, the US Army or the US military. The second one is, I was in the Secret Service, had my dream job, I was loving it. I'm 31 years old at this time, and my wife calls me, we have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and she says, hey, I just got diagnosed with cancer. And he's like, whoa, and it was a less than 50% survival rate at the time for what she had. And so that was sobering, and that kind of really gives you perspective on, like, again, what's important in life and what's meaningful and what's not and what's just noise. And so I went to the private sector as a result. I had to leave the Secret Service to care for her and the kids. And I carry those experiences with me today of just like who I am, and I've been told, like, dude, you're the calmest CISO I know, and it's like, well, I try and keep perspective on kind of what's important, and so those have been some real defining moments. I think my experiences of being the business disabler and where projects and innovation go to die and trying to do it differently, when I started to get these leadership roles, and certainly when I became a CISO, I wanted to be a business enabler, and we're gonna delight our customers, and I sort of brought a mindset of, yeah, we do have customers, and it's the IT teams, or it's the technology teams, or it's the businesses we support. I will say, to my detriment, in hindsight, at times I overdid that. There are times where you just have to say, no, you can't do this. This puts the company too much at risk.
It's such a hard balance to strike, especially with your really, really high caliber engineers, right? That are like, no, I want a dev box at my house. You can't have a dev box at your house without EDR on it. They're like, yeah, but I want one.
Right.
Or like, no, I want to use a Windows laptop. You're like, yeah, but we're all on Macs. Well, that's...
Yes.
It's like being a parent, right? I grew up with very strict parents.
EDR is so stupid. It inhibits my productivity.
I can't install anything. That's the point.
Yeah. So it is finding that balance, and I've gone at times in my career a little too far to the, let's get them to yes no matter what.
Yeah.
To realizing you've got to be, sometimes not everybody's going to like you.
Yeah. That's all right. I always say in security, people don't have to like you, they just need to trust you, right? Like,
well
even
said.
if they don't want to go out to dinner with me after the fact, if they trust my judgment, that's okay.
I clearly have an inherent need to be liked, because Disney, Costco, I want to be with brands that people love, so it must be, I must want to be liked, I guess, I don't know.
Or just widely available.
Yeah, either one, yeah.
100% uptime.
Well, one truism, and this is what Dean Sisman, who was up on the main stage this morning, was talking about, is just the sheer complexity of the IT environment, which has changed dramatically, and it is so fragmented, was the word he used. And especially now with what you're talking about, the fragmented workforce, people working from home, people working hybrid, some people on contractors, some people part-time. This has really shifted the security landscape dramatically. How have these changes impacted security operations from your perspective?
It's made everything harder. I mean, it really has. Like, just the shift to digital. If we just talk about the shift to digital, like, every company's digital now. The digital footprint at most every company has exploded, yet most security budgets haven't, security teams haven't, security capabilities haven't. So our job as security practitioners has gotten harder and harder every year when, CFOs will come to you and say, hey, your budget's going up 10% every year, or 20%, or maybe 30%. Mine seems to go down, but sometimes your budget goes up, but yet we're getting worse at security in a sense because it's just getting harder. And so we're measured very differently. That's one thing I think, 2020 with the move to remote work across the board was remarkable. I mean, it was just incredible what it did and what it's done. I think we live in a world where we're probably never going to see fully managed devices and everything's neat and clean, and financial services and highly regulated industry certainly, but for the most part it's going to be a lot of personal devices hitting our network potentially, scary, So it's just made that aspect of the job even harder as well.
Seems like we've also gone to a much more contractor and partner heavy economy where there's all these, now just as an enterprise we were talking about, you're kind of connected to all the fates of all of these other things and entities, and machine learning and AI is going to throw a whole boatload on top of that. And so, as a higher level CISO, how do you think about that kind of secondary and tertiary layer of risk and how you manage all of the different external components that are having to connect into you?
I made this comment one time to the board, and I may have used hyperbole, but I'm like, that's our biggest risk, this third-party risk, because it's so pervasive and it's so highly unmanaged. They're given a lot of trust and a lot of access, but oftentimes they don't have the same security controls applied to like a full-time employee would. We have no visibility into their environment and that sort of thing. And as a security person, right, that we don't thrive in that element of not lack of visibility. So it is a huge risk, and I think every CISO thinks about it, and it probably keeps them up at night quite often of how to manage that risk. Because if you look at certainly a lot of the significant breaches recently in the last 5 years, it's usually through either supply chain or third party, some kind of
a vendor,
party.
yeah. Well, and people request a SOC 2, but nobody actually reads them.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't think people know a SOC 2 is an attestation. It's basically you saying, we do this. It's not somebody comes in and says, yes, they have these things, but they don't say they work or they're effective. And so I think, the check the box compliance and security that's existed for a long time, I don't see that lasting into the future when we're talking about hundreds of millions of damages.
I think it's a procurement checkbox or vendor management checkbox, like, hey, are you guys SOC 2? Yeah, okay, great. I've got to ask that question a bit too, like, hey, should we do this better? Like, should we do third-party risk management more deeply? Should we, due diligence on these companies more deeply? And I'm like, yeah, of course, but it's impossible.
What's the ROI though?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, I don't have the time, the talent to do it for the number of companies that we're bringing into our environment, and the companies, frankly, don't want me to do it, would not allow me into their environments to do sort of the scope of review that
SOC 2 response.
That the company wants. So I just think we're in this really uncomfortable situation for most security leaders and companies, really.
So one of the other major challenges, and this gets back to what you and Jackie were talking about earlier, is having all of this accountability and responsibility, but none of the status that's needed to actually get things done, is that then that creates this cycle of stress and anxiety and burnout.
Yep.
And that is something that a lot of CISOs see on team members. So how, as a leader, can you support your team and make sure that you're trying to do whatever you can to prevent attrition?
Yeah.
Other than hoodies.
Yeah, hoodies.
The swag is nice,
hoodies,
but
coffee cups.
Visits from characters. We call them character visits at Disney, where they come into the office. They love, cast members love that. At Disney, I'll steal this from an employee there who is a brilliant security engineer, and she said, hey, we got to engineer out labor. And that doesn't mean let's get rid of people. That means let's use automation to do all this easy stuff that takes time, and let's free up their capacity to go do the hard stuff. And so that really became a bit of a mantra for me and for the teams I led of like, hey, how can we free people up to go do the really high value stuff, put them on things they want to be doing, take stuff off their plate, like give them more capacity, that's amazing, and let them spend time where they want to spend their time and not on this kind of menial tasks. And so I think we can't keep throwing human capital at it. It's like, burnout's real, we can't just add 10% more to headcount every year.
Especially
free
for
people up.
how much that headcount costs.
Well, yes, how much it costs, the scarcity, do you have to be in an office, all of these things, and no one wants to be in an office now, and so yeah.
Well, I think the manual tasks, I'm autistic as heck, and so I literally know exactly how much I make an hour, and when I have to do one of those stupid tasks at the end of the week, I go back and I'm like, this company really paid me this amount of money to do this thing in Excel that we could do, with a macro. Anyway, yeah, so I think that given how neurospicy a lot of people at IT and security are, those things matter. And even if they don't say they notice, they absolutely notice, and it all adds up over time.
Yep.
So I think being a good leader and being cognizant of those things is something that a lot of people should take note of as well, because it's, even if your engineers don't tell you it bugs them, it probably does.
We've all learned, like, hoodies and backpacks and free food on Fridays or whatever have a very short shelf life.
Yeah.
And it's really engaging, sustainable work that they want to be doing is the most impactful.
It's making people's jobs better.
Yeah.
And it's, as you said, giving them what is rewarding and meaningful to them, and not the toil, not the stupid stuff that is just boring. So one of the things that's so remarkable about interviewing you is how candid you are, even about mistakes you've made in your own career and things that you wish you could have done differently or things you would do differently now. So as we close out, I'd love to hear you give some advice to the young up-and-coming people who want to be CISO someday, or maybe things that you wish you had known at the start of your own career.
Yeah, I was talking to a current CISO at this event earlier today, and he says, I have a lot of people come up and say, hey, I want your job someday. And he's like, well, let's talk about that first. Like, eyes wide open on this. I give this advice a lot when I say, hey, when I'm talking to people that want to be a CISO, or even CISOs that are kind of early in their CISO career, of, like, don't forget to take care of yourself. And it was said on stage today, like, I forgot to take care of myself. I was taking care of my family, I was taking care of my employees, my work, and all this. And you sort of forget to take care of yourself, and over years it weighs on you and it builds up. And so now that I've got some new freedom in my life, I'm really focused on taking care of myself. So don't make the same mistake I did. Like, make sure you are taking care of yourself along the way.
I also think that radical candor is part of what makes you a good CISO as well.
Yeah.
And like I said, people don't need to like you in security, they need to trust you. And candor and authenticity are the fastest shortcut to trust, because if people know that you're going to be open with them about what you can, it makes it easier for them to trust you. So having been someone who also neglected their health until a couple years ago and then was forced to reckon with that, I really appreciate you saying that, because I'm on a better health journey now too, but it took a couple years.
Great advice. Well, Ryan Knisley, thank you so much for coming on theCUBE. Appreciate it, really great conversation.
Yeah, thank you both.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Jackie McGuire. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's coverage of Axonius Adapt 2025. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.